we work for tech companies, but we see tech as an ecosystem. We still make mistakes, but the way people fit in, the chances are a lot higher when you recruit based on values. So our first value is built around relationships. That one was already embedded in everything. It's funny, in 15 minutes you can actually have a feeling about the organization that you're talking to, if it's a good fit. That was just a lack of communication with them to see what they actually do.
Welcome back to another episode of the Startup Passport by Econsulate. Today we are joined by Dragt. Thank you very much for joining.
Thanks for being here.
You are the founder of En Serio, a company that has been existing for, over a decade. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with the company?
Yes. So we are a PR agency specialized in technology. So we work for tech companies, but we see tech as an ecosystem. So we also work for the investment companies. We also work for learning and development companies, as well as for hardware and software vendors.
And now that the company has been existing for so long, how was the process initially when you came up with the idea and founded the company?
Yes. So actually, I worked in the same industry for 5 years. And after some traveling, I came back and I didn't really know what to do next. But then I got a couple of phone calls or requests from people I knew from work, and they asked if I could help them out. And I was still planning to go and look for a job. But after a while, those projects kept going. And I was asked by some of those people to send them an invoice. And I said, well, I don't have a VAT number. And then I said, okay, please get one, because otherwise we cannot pay you. And I was like, you don't need to pay me. I'm just doing this, and then I will look for a job. So I did that. I went to the Chamber of Commerce, got my VAT number, got the first invoice out, and then that thing kept rolling. And after a few months, I made a decision to actually give it a go. Start this PR agency myself, and if it wouldn't work out, because it was a time of a crisis back in 2009, I would still be able to look for a job. 15 years later, this is where we are, and I now work with a team based in Amsterdam.
And how did the process look like of building the company? Because you certainly had a lot of knowledge on the work that you're doing, but then there's all of this business knowledge, starting a company, even aspects like taxes, setting up your own business. That's something a lot of people also always say, oh, these are the things you don't learn in school, even if you know before that you want to do them. So how did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I had the big advantage that the company I worked for, they allowed me to do a lot of things. So I started as an intern, but soon, like after a year or so, they asked me to also help out on the finance side and on the HR side, on the operations side. So I already, under the hood of a existing company, could do so experience on those operational things, on how to run a business. So for me, when I was considering to do actually a freelance thing, there was an obstacle. The other thing is that I always believed in outsourcing as much as possible. So right from the start, I got an accountant in that could also tackle the fiscal things, and I got specialists in as much as possible. So we don't do our own insurance things. We don't do our own finance things. It's all outsourced right from the beginning, meaning I don't actually need to know a lot of things. I just need to ask the right questions to the specialist.
Outsourcing is also a part of relying on other people, and a lot of entrepreneurs often have difficulties with that at the start, because they really feel like in control of everything.
Yes.
So how was that for you? And also from the financial aspect, because you have to pay those people, did that work from the start because you had enough clients from your freelance work, so to say?
Yes. Yeah. I was lucky that I had a lot of work right from the beginning. So actually, after 6 months, I was at a point that I had too much work, and I need to decide, is this going to be a freelance thing, just me by myself, or do I want to start building a team? And I immediately knew it was the last thing. So I was fortunate to have bandwidth to actually get people involved. But the other internal debate was, do I want to spend time on it? Because I could actually do my own finances. I could run Excel sheets to like a profit and loss and a balance sheet, because I was trained to do it in school, as well as I did it for the company I worked for. However, my question was, do I want to do it on my Sunday afternoon? And my answer was no. And that just means that you need to um, arrange the workload in a different way. Another example, about 8 years ago, my son was born. And I decided I wanted to spend as much time as possible with him. So from that day, I actually started working part-time. And talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, they say, oh, how can you work part-time? It's just about managing your workload. So knowing my work week is shorter than before, it's not 40 hours, but it's probably 24, 28. I need to make sure that a couple of things that used to be on my plate are done differently.
And when having that approach, I feel like it's even more important than for other entrepreneurs that you hire the right people. And hiring is something that is it's so important for a company that there are so many ways of doing it. Did you have any negative experiences with that as well? Coming in a position that you hired for the first time, did that work out from you from the get-go? And how do you hire now? How's your process?
Yeah, absolutely not. It didn't work out right from the beginning. I was lucky that I got the first employees through people I already knew. So I was very comfortable in hiring them for junior roles. I made my mistakes, hired the wrong people. I find it really difficult to say goodbye, so I found it really hard to end a contract. But after a while, I think the most critical thing is to hire based on culture. And we started a journey about 5 years ago when we really were mapping what are our values and how do we do things. And the moment you speak to people in job interviews and you really talk about those values instead of the job description, then the likelihood of a match when they work in your company is a lot higher. We still make mistakes, but the way people fit in, the chances are a lot higher when you recruit based on values.
How do you implement how do you implement values or a certain culture in a company? Because you might have them yourself, you might have your beliefs, the values that you live by as a person as well, but then you want to implement them with your employees as well.
Yes.
How do you do that?
It was a very scary decision. So I'm a person who just does things, even when it's scary. At some point, it felt like we needed to be very clear in what we think it's important, and I wanted to be independent from me. So we hired someone. Again, we outsourced it. I don't know how to build a culture. And they basically said, we're going to interview everyone and we're going to see what values are actually shared. Once those were mapped, we actually, with that consultancy, described what it means in behavior. So, what are we actually doing that shows in our day to day that contribute to those values? And if you make it part of HR, day to day, how you manage client relationships, all those things, if you intentionally, if you're intentionally about how you implement them, then it becomes a living thing. Then you live your values. And I remember we had two values mapped. One of them we were already living, and the other one was still a bit of an ambitious, aspiring value.
Do you remember what those ones were?
Yeah, so our first value is built around relationships. That one was already embedded in everything. And then the other one was around being critical or giving feedback. And that one was something that we really felt, but weren't really doing. And we knew that we needed some work to really embed that in the organization. And I can say after 5 years now, we have embedded that a lot better than now. And we're also probably going to do another round of values because we feel there's another one probably this year. So again, hiring a consultancy to help map that and make it independent of me as a founder. I think that's very key. And to make sure that it's also something that the whole team at that time will carry and will sort of show to whoever joins the team.
And from your perspective, well, maybe that's something that's outsourced essentially. But how much do you value culture on the one hand, also fitting into the team, and then the skill set of the individual person for the certain job position? Is there like a certain percentage how you can like divide it, let's say, on how important it is?
Yeah. I think culture is very important. I would say from the get-go, I would say it's 75%, because if that's not in place, even if people have the skills, they will not succeed within our team, right? So skills are also important, but it comes after that they feel comfortable, or they feel that that's the right place for them to work, or they feel well fitted into the team. That needs to be there first, and then people can be their best version.
Because essentially, with the right culture, the people can also grow more and grow the skill set, even if they don't have as much as maybe other candidates before.
Exactly. Yeah, and we actually put it even a step further, because we also try to find the culture match with clients. So what we do in our new business activities, so the first conversation is actually what we call a chemistry call. And we usually don't talk about their company or our company, but we just have a chat about how they do things in their company and in our organization. And they ask the same question back. It's funny, in 15 minutes, you can actually have a feeling about the organization that you're talking to, if it's a good fit. Because again, we feel that if there's a good cultural match with a client, that's when we can do our best job.
Now, after being an entrepreneur for 15 years and also not intending to be an entrepreneur from the get-go,
Yeah.
is there, and we talked about it, a lot of these things as well, is there any piece of advice you would give to the younger Eric 15 years ago, when you were thinking of building up your own company, something that you now learned? Of course, we just talked about many things, but maybe something else that pops up where it's like, yeah, that's good to have at the back of the mind sometimes.
Yeah, I would say get input from your team as soon as possible. So I remember after a few years, I wanted to do like things as efficient as possible, and I started looking into apps, and I got distracted because every week there was a new app that could help us be more efficient or more effective. And I remember at the end of the year, my team said, "Eric, stop introducing new apps. It's distracting us and it's not helping." And that was just a lack of communication with them to see what they actually need. And I was just too much into, oh, I need to be a good leader and I need to make things better, but from my perspective, not from theirs.
Yes, that is definitely very very interesting, and also adds up with the things you mentioned before. Thank you very much for sharing all of that very interesting conversation, and for joining the podcast. And most importantly, good luck with everything still coming up and with the hiring process for En Serio.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.